So,
yeah.
Welcome to the podcast. This is a brand new podcast, the brainchild of two brilliant individuals such as myself. My name is Capriel.
I'm Bree.
We've known each other since 5th grade.
That
Crazy.
was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no,
Like,
literally.
Time flies.
Lifetimes, actually, lifetimes. So, so we're here. We decided to just like talk because we do that every single day of our lives anyway. So like, why not try and
Fire up a FaceTime with other people involved.
Period.
So.
And a big goal of mine for this pod is we all know the current political and economic state of the world right now is not great. So I just wanted to create a little space where people could come and escape and just like vibe and chill. If you resonate with us, amazing. Welcome. We'd love to have you stay. If not, bitch, block us.
Anyway, back to me.
Yeah, back to you.
Were you going to say something else?
We were talking about house hunters. And
yes.
I was going off of the fact that, 2018, 2017, whatever, that era of like, I mean, I wasn't old enough. I was like, I don't know. I was really young back then. I couldn't buy a house. But even if I wanted to, I feel like, I don't know. I remember seeing houses for like, I don't know, $200,000-$300,000, whatever. And yeah, now that is just like so astronomically out of the realm of possibility for so many people that it's like, it's almost like watching a piece of fiction, like watching House Hunters. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Especially, I mean, even watching, because like it'll creep up in the timeline of like even watching the like current day, it kind of feels like watching fan fiction, because like I'm never gonna own a house.
No,
like
literally.
I don't think I'm ever gonna own a house. So
Really?
it's like, it's just like, oh, look at like also, or the thought that keeps coming up is just like, this is a classic tired meme, but it's like, oh, I'm a teacher and he works at an office and our budget's $500,000 and it's like the year's 2024 and I'm like,
where do you teach? Literally, where do you teach?
So like, and then like at the very end when they're like showing which house they bought and they're like, oh yeah, my parents actually helped us pay for this, and it's like,
there it is.
Okay, well, if you would have started the episode this way, then I would have felt a whole lot different about this process. Like,
yeah, what happened to transparency?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But yeah, no, it's one of those things that like it's almost like a form of self-harm watching House Hunters, because it's like, damn, like that is so far out of reach for me.
Exactly.
Hopefully at some point, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen, but it is just, I like to indulge into that fantasy every now and again, and it's fun to watch people like spend their entire life savings on a building that they're going to live in for the rest of their life. And I don't know if it's just like my like Gen Z mindset or whatever, but like I don't know if that ever will appeal to me, like sitting and staying in one place. You know what I mean? Like that's having valid. one home. Like I don't know, that could just be like a me specific kind of thing. You have a nomadic
soul.
I think I do.
See, I crave, because see, I don't necessarily, I see what you're saying, and like I like dream of traveling,
sure,
but also like the dream of then having a place to return to, and like, oh, this is mine. I don't have to worry about like renting anywhere. I don't have to worry about like somebody keeping it while I'm gone. It's like, oh, this is just my house that I can go and do whatever I want in the world, and then
right. Roots. Yeah, no, I feel that. I think in a perfect world in which we do not live, I would indulge my nomadic soul with my like trad wife soul, where I do stay in one place. Like I have something that I could just like
so valid.
Call home base, but then also go. I think I'm just describing being rich, where I own multiple properties.
Commune.
Or a commune. Oh my god, wait, in our commune era. That would be actually kind of sick.
Podcast first, commune second.
Exactly. That is the natural progression of things usually. So yeah, that's me. Podcasting,
watching House Hunters and playing Stardew Valley.
I love that.
And also trying to figure out video editing software. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Dipping my little tootsies in.
That's been a very interesting, and on the flip side of that, figuring out how to like edit audio. Doing anything in tech, like women in STEM, is not my forte. It never has been.
Themin in STEM.
Themin in STEM.
And
that just like kind of gave me a stroke. Saying that.
And
but
being that.
Exactly. But it's been a really fun challenge, like figuring all of that out, because it really, like, this entire process of carving out a space online, doing anything sort of in social media or just media in general, entertainment, it's been something that has just been sitting in the back of my head for literally my entire life, because like we both very much grew up on the internet. I think like we come from an era where I can definitely remember a time pre-social media, but that was like that was a small chunk of my life. And then I'd say like around 9 or 10 is when social media really started to pick up, and those were incredibly formative years. So like all I can really remember is being on social media, and so I think that really kind of like formulated my goals and my dreams, so to speak.
Absolutely. I think we were talking about this on my birthday, but we were just talking about the fact that we like had just missed MySpace. Like it was that segue in like, I think I joined Facebook in like 2008 or like 2009.
Yeah.
As then being an 8 or 9 year old. Like
yeah.
So, or I guess 9-10 year old. And so yeah, that's as that little gel in that brain was forming, it was just like on a computer screen as well. So, and
the fact that there are no like long-term, that I know of, no like long-term studies or like,
I mean, at that point though, you gotta assume some have got to start, because like I feel like I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That there are none, but it's like been like we're 26, so like if there has been any focus group anywhere,
yeah, like
there has like there.
No, we really are the guinea pigs.
We are. I was talking to my mom about that the other day too, of like we were the first generation of like children.
Yeah.
Because when like the internet came out, it was kind of like this like, oh, I don't know, no parent was just, I mean, I won't say no. So there were definitely like children on the internet in the aughts of the beginning of the internet, but like the first generation of like, that's just normal. Like you, me, a lot of people I know, a lot of friends I made along the way, we're all experiencing the internet as children.
Yeah.
So it's like crazy, like I see what you're saying in the sense of I don't think there's any studies, but we are starting to see the results of a generation raised on the internet and social media.
Like no wonder like the majority of people in our age group suffer from some level of like anxiety and depression.
God.
And that's been like gnawing away at, because I've always been like, where the hell does that come from? And I'm sure, I mean, there's like whatever, family trauma, blah 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 blah.
Blah 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 blah.
But all of that
in the sense that
all of that is also exacerbated by like, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you can find communities or super early on and find a place to fit in super early on, but in the same breath, it is also like, oh, you're seeing some of the worst shit humanly imaginable, like when
before your brain is formed.
No, literally. And you just think that that's normal because you have no other reference point to compare it to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what's really scary about like seeing kids now like actually be born with an iPad in hand, like coming out of the fucking womb with an actual iPad in their hands, like playing fucking, I don't know what they're playing. Like,
I mean, like, or just like going further to that this is like source Reddit, but like in like teacher subreddits and stuff of them talking about like talking to parents, of like trying to convince parents of young children to read to their children.
Right.
And the parents are like, well, iPad time. Like, I can put on something. I can put on a YouTube video of somebody reading the Hungry Caterpillar in a better. They can do the better voices than I. It's like that has nothing to do. Like, the voices that the screen is making has nothing to do with whether or not you should read to your child.
You
like,
just don't want to be a parent. Like, you just don't want to spend time with your kid.
Those bricks stacked up of like, yes, we like the two things happening at once of like, once you reach an age where you can like seek out technology, coupled with a generation of parents that have only ever known technology, so they're just like, this is all these are the tools I've known.
That's really trippy because Gen Z are having kids now. You know what I mean? Like, people in our generation are having like little human beings that are needing to navigate the world with their iPad in hand.
No, exactly.
Which is like, I just...
No, you know. And so I've said this, like, we've talked about this before of, like, I definitely feel like that's a cause of the fact that, like, I'm not on social media very much anymore. Like, I have my little, like, I get on Reddit for my little, like, niches of Stardew Valley and, like, Watcher, a YouTuber, and other podcasts like the McElroy Bros, or just other like parenting, nannying, children yielding things, or other. I was actually just saying this. I've been using Reddit mildly for like the past year or so. Just found out this week there's an active Twilight subreddit that like has like active posts with like book and movie discussions that I'm like,
you just found out this week?
I feel embarrassed, honestly. But it's good. So just like, anything that I'm like, oh, I'm interested in that. Like, there's a subreddit for it. So
Reddit is like kind of Reddit's a fucking terrible place.
It's a terrible place. So let me say, Reddit sucks and like the worst kind of people. And if any, like, cause it'll just like suggest, it's like, oh, are you interested in r/legal? And it's like, no, Reddit.
I'm okay, actually.
I don't know what I've done to give you that impression. But,
right.
But then that to say, if one pops up, it's just the most like, do I have to pay the alimony that the court told me I have to pay to my ex-wife?
It's like, one word answer is yes. And I think that's all you really need. You don't need
It's like that's the title, and then there's like two paragraphs in the body, and it's like
400 comments. You know what I mean? And like 200 upvotes. 200
people, of those 400 comments, 200 people being like, no.
Actually, according to this one random law from the 1800s, like, you actually don't need to do that at this time. But
precisely. So that's Reddit. I have no defense of Reddit, but it has nice little, like, small communities.
And I should say, what my point was with Reddit is it is kind of the epitome of, like, the good and bad of the internet. It's like kind of this microcosm of like, there are the worst human beings imaginable you will find on Reddit. Like, everybody that's like 4chan bad and worse will also find their way onto Reddit. But then also you get really, really niche, super cool communities of people that like the same things that you can find. It's like such an interesting experience.
Absolutely. And life hack. I have a Reddit life hack for you.
Please share.
Reddit helps. I won't say saves. I won't say fixes.
Sure.
Reddit helps whatever shit show Google has going on right now. Because if you have just a random question, if you want to if you want to know how to grow your hair faster, if you want to know like just any little thing, if you want to know like, what episode of Grey's Anatomy did this happen? Like, you want to do one of those Google searches, those Google searches are gone. You're going to get AI. Type in your question and then put Reddit at the end.
That's so true. You have
That's so true.
Thank you.
Literally, that's so true.
Because you'll get forums, and also though, like whatever I almost said YouTube, whatever Google algorithm it has, is that like it will also then pop up some like helpful information sometimes off of Reddit. Like, it'll just be like, oh,
sure,
I see you're down in the dirt. Like,
sure,
you want the good stuff.
Sure.
So if the Reddit forum doesn't answer your question, that Google search will often yield the results you want. So life hack.
I have
media. Do you want to do ins and outs?
Sure.
We have a few ins and outs. It probably won't be January whenever this happens.
Right, or at the very end of January.
But it will happen like early of the year. It'll be early first quarter of the year. We got down.
Sure.
So ins and outs for the year going forward for the majority. I have more ins than I do outs.
I would love to hear yours first.
Do you want to hear my ins or my outs first?
Let's start.
I have more. I already said that. More ins than outs.
Start with your outs, and then we can end on a positive note.
Okay, I love it. First one, it's kind of a dud. It says,
okay.
I wrote this before, and I said TikTok. Apparently, well, she's back for now. We'll get into that.
But T because TikTok's out.
Exactly.
I think.
Yeah. You know what? Your mind, because it's out.
Yeah.
So TikTok out. My second out is overconsumption. That's my out for the year, in the sense of this is very this is a personal thing, honestly. I love stuff, but we need to be more mindful. And when I say we, I just mean anyone this applies to.
Mm-hmm.
Of it's cool to have stuff. I love stuff, but not too many. And also, this is also to the people, I don't do this, I don't like this. If you have a million of one thing, not a collection, but a million Stanley cups or a million fucking accessories for your Stanley cups that just clip on, it's that's not what a reusable water bottle is for.
I'm gonna hand you the mic.
Stuff.
You have the floor.
Stuff like that, because you can enjoy and have all those doodads without having to buy. So that overconsumption. I didn't write this down, but I had this thought, and this is also personal, but I'll put out there as outs of I guess this relates to overconsumption of buying less stuff. Or sorry, this is kind of a mix between an in that I didn't put down and an out that goes with overconsumption, is start making your own stuff. Instead of having to buy stuff, just learn how to make clothes, learn how to make the little doodads you want for your Stanley cup, the little doodads you want, learn how to make buttons, learn how to make earrings, learn how to make the little doodads you want to buy, because then it's sustainable and you made it yourself. And there's no shame if you want to make it personally. I'm not saying go recreate something and then go sell it, but go find whatever you want to buy and then just try and make it yourself and wear it and try and do it yourself.
I love that. I love that.
So this is getting kind of in territory, but so that is under the umbrella of out. Stop buying everything. Stuff, I love stuff, but do it differently. Don't just buy it.
Access that creative part of your mind.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think people forget that they are capable of higher levels of thought.
Exactly.
And we've been gaslit in this capitalist Western society to just ignore that part of our evolutionary history, because bitch, we are such a creative species.
Absolutely.
Human beings, really bad sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. For
But
context.
also,
I'm an anthropology major, love studying human behavior, human beings. I think for good and for bad, humans are here. We've made a very measurable marked impact on society. So yeah, all that's to say, completely 100% agree. I think humans need to just tap into our primal hunter-gatherer parts of our brain.
Absolutely.
And start make America make shit again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
And so my last out, very simple, just a standard out. Stop doing this. Stop driving like you have nowhere to be. I hate that so much.
Please elaborate.
I hate when you're in a speed zone that's say 55 and it's just straight stretch, and you're going if you're going 55, 54, not, and I guess I shouldn't say 55. If you're doing the speed limit, I'll still roll my eyes at you, but that's fine. But if you're going, and that's why I used a 55 road, because if the speed limit is telling you that you can go, then go. But if you're meandering around 50, between 50 and 55, you're no, gotta be safe. It's It's straight. There's nothing going on. You can see better than I can see because you're in front of me that it's straight. So why are we going under the speed limit here? And like, that's the thing, not egregiously. It's just like, you're not driving like you have somewhere to be today, let alone, and the example I just used is like kind of out. We live in Oregon, so it's kind of, you have a mix of like towns, but then like also plenty of opportunity to just kind of like ride on back roads and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm referring to with that one. But let alone when you're in town and people are just like slowing down for a red light like 2 square miles before the red light happens. It's like, you don't need to slow down your car looks newer than my car. Like, I know that your brakes are probably fine.
Right.
Stuff like that where you're just like, I get being a conscious driver. I try to be one. But it gets too much sometimes. I want to get where I want to go.
Oh my God! Can you let me do what
I
need
completely
to?
agree. I think there's conscious driving, and then there's just like, it gets to a point where you're like almost unconsciously being too safe, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. And I was just talking to my boyfriend about this, of the idea that like there's a spectrum of driving. Of obviously you can look at the guy tearing ass somewhere and like, that's unsafe, you shouldn't do that. But then you have the other end of the spectrum of if someone's so cautious and so like lets anyone they think is possibly crossing the road like slams on their brakes, like that is also unsafe. So it's like, you have to find that happy middle of being conscious, aware of your surroundings, but not like afraid and putting your surroundings before the operation you have going.
Period.
Like, so.
Period.
Those are my outs. Those are my outs. So.
I love that. Similar to some of yours, I think did you talk about your ins? Or just
No, I
your
didn't do my
outs?
outs. I just did my outs.
Okay.
I kind of went off on an in tangent of like and arts and crafts, but
Well, I only have a couple outs, but they're pretty big. And all encompassing. Outs. Social media's out.
ooh, I feel that.
And I know I'm saying that as someone who is about to start putting themselves onto social media, but I think social media in general, let me say this. We need to critically rethink our relationship with social media. And I know
the relationship we have with social media as individuals versus like entities. Even though this is like a nothing nowhere podcast, an entity of a podcast on social media versus ourselves as individuals on social media.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have just kind of, like I said before, we grew up with social media. We just assume that it's this ubiquitous, inseparable part of our existence. That's not true. We have every power and every right to just like close the app, take it off your phone for a little bit. I'm not asking you to just completely detox yourself from social media for the rest of your life. I think there are utilitarian purposes, let me just say that, for social media, but the way in which we've just like let it like take over every single aspect of our existence, and in the way that we've seen it affect our society, like we just saw with the election, I think we really need to have a sit-down conversation and just understand, like, I was having this conversation with my therapist, like, back when Trump got elected for the first time, like, social media was a place that I could go and just kind of like escape the noise surrounding all these terrible people, all these terrible things. And it was just kind of this area that I could explore and everybody else could explore that didn't really want to, sit with that reality. Now that's not the case. Social media these days, pretty much every single social media that at least that I used to frequent, like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, those are all owned by like MAGA billionaires now.
Exactly.
And so it's like, now I can't feel confident exploring those platforms without feeling like I'm going to come across a beheading video or some Nazi propaganda, like just straight up Nazi propaganda, or just like some level of violence towards the LGBTQ community. And it's just gotten to this like really sinister place. So all of that is to say, just get off social media. I think that goes for everybody. That goes for Truth Social. That goes for and I'm going to say this. There's a difference between Twitter users and X users. Even to this day. And I was a Twitter user up until recently, where I could not do it anymore. I had to delete the app because like it got out of control. But everybody needs to delete social media. Let's petition for a national holiday to just like, let's take a week. 1 week. That's all I'm asking. 1 week to just like, let's go outside. Read a book.
Literally, the person I work for had this idea, just told me, she's like, and by the way, I think I'm going to try, like personally, not like for the house or anything, but like, I'm going to try and, I think I'm going to try and do like a 90s month where I like consume and like live my life in a way. So like with the caveat, she does work from home. So it's like she's not doing it down in the paint, but like adjusting her lifestyle in a way where like, how would it be if she lived in the 90s before the proliferation of the internet, before being able to just like order something like, oh, I need something, being able to order groceries or
right.
Just like living your life through that lens in the ways that you can for just like a small period of time and being like, how does this feel? Like, what does this do for me? And I think it would be a positive thing, just like in general. And doing a fun flair of like, oh, this is like I'm living from the 90s, where like that feels like yesterday, but like
right.
it wasn't apparently.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I don't the 90s. I can't remember that. Like, was that before our time? I think
technically, I spent 366 days in the 90s, so I am mostly unaware.
No, legitimately.
But I get the vibe, that early 2000s charm of the polish of the 90s wearing off.
Yes.
We were there.
Yes.
So.
And this goes into one of my other outs. Get rid of your smartphone immediately.
You have some pretty heavy-handed
I know.
Are you getting rid of your smartphone?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not.
I tried to stick to things that like I was gonna do, or
I'm definitely going for the jugular here.
You're saying, hey, you get rid
guys
of your smartphone.
Immediately throw your iPhone away.
This will solve all of your problems.
The NSA is watching you. Russia's watching you. China's watching you. Throw it away.
The fact that that's not incorrect.
No.
But like
the United States is watching you. We're all living in your walls.
Yeah, it's cozy in here.
Basically, my main point lies in the fact that I had this thought earlier, and I've had this thought for a while, of like, I really have just been exploring the possibility, and like, you just asked me, like, am I getting rid of my phone? Probably not, but probably asterisk. You know what I mean? Like, I would love at some point in my life to genuinely downgrade my phone to like a flip phone again.
No, I want a flip phone so bad, and like I have an iPad, so it's like feels like a pretty viable possibility for me. But even in the sense of like a flip phone, I don't know if I could go so hardcore into like the flip phone my grandpa has, but like a downgrade in the sense of what can this thing do for me? I don't need it to do everything for me, but I want some like access, so it's not just I can call. I think that would kind of be too much of an ice water bath versus like, okay, let me downgrade from a smartphone. Like, I don't think I need a smartphone versus.
And the biggest hurdle that I found myself like going back and forth with in my mind was, how am I going to listen to music? Like that seems.
Ooh, you could get an iPod off eBay though.
And so
would be so cunty.
That segues into my point of like, yeah, I definitely could get like an iPod Touch or an iPod just in general. But like, I don't think iTunes is a thing anymore. Like, is it? Like,
yeah, what do you mean? iTunes is a program?
I thought like you couldn't download music anymore.
Well, no.
I'm confused. Unless this is me discovering something, I'm confused how that would be a thing. In the sense of like, if you had if you had if you have an iPhone, iTunes is the program in which you can like upload media to your. So like if that didn't exist, what program would use to like if you wanted to get like a burned pirated MP3 onto your phone? It goes through iTunes. It like downloads into like the MP3 like downloads into iTunes, and then you.
Okay. I mean, I believe you. This is just how far removed I am. This is what big social media wants us to.
I will say. Well, I was gonna say, like I said, I used the example of a pirated thing. So you could be correct in the sense of maybe they don't. Maybe you can't buy albums, and that's shocking to me. That would be shocking to me.
Right.
If that's the case. Because that goes into one of my outs, kind of, technically, not really, but sort of.
Okay, which is?
You want to hear my first in?
Yes.
Or sorry, not an out. Did I say out?
I meant say
an
out.
In.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's the in?
My big one, the one that I'm like, you said let's do ins and outs, and I was like, I have an in.
Sure.
Physical media, which I feel like is in the concept of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Of like, buy those CDs, vinyls are kind of like, but buy those vinyls, buy those CDs, go on eBay and go find those CD-ROM discs you played as a kid. I'm currently, like, my boyfriend got me a Nintendo DS because I've been wanting one for Christmas or my birthday. I can't remember. I think my birthday. I think it was Christmas. Sorry. Anyway, I got a Nintendo DS and it just, like, lit this fire in me of, like, I can't fathom the idea, because like I think it goes into another thing of like I just had a Nintendo DS as a kid, and they were just like prevalent, and you still see them talked about, that it's like, those are just gonna be around, but they're not, like those are not lost media, but like those are things that aren't getting made anymore, won't get made anymore. So like I'm like, I think I do need to track down the color blue Nintendo DSi that I had as a kid, like,
which I have that exact same one, literally like 5 feet away from me. So that's so funny.
Yeah. So it's little stuff like that. And like thrift stores are also great, where it's just like, go buy a VHS player and start collecting VHSs, because that's something that's not going to be around forever. And it's like the longer time stretches, the less and less of them there'll be, because yes, I'm sure there's companies out there that are like, in the fact that time is cyclical in a circle, that like eventually one day somebody might start or already making VHS tapes, but we're never going to regress to the time where like you could just find any movie you want to buy is like on a VHS. Like they're going to be niche novelty things.
Right.
And like honestly, same with DVDs. I was like just talking about this the other day of like the lost art of like the DVD menu screen, where you had like, whether it be quirky and special, or just the ability to go and watch like director commentary or actress commentary, or fucking like little games, like kids movies that would have like little games like in the title screen. Like that's completely gone. Like that art is completely gone.
Oh my god.
Go buy a DVD player and play those games. I'm saying this to myself because I want to buy a DVD player and track down an old copy of Elf that has the sledding game on it.
This is unlocking so many different memories in me, because I remember just like video games, for example. I'd go like there'd be like the PlayStation 2. Like I see so many, like when I was on TikTok, I would see so many just like Y2K core videos of old PlayStation 2 like loading screens, and people being like, oh, what a time to be alive. And I'm like, you don't even understand, like it was a time, like,
oh my god,
it was the 60s, like everyone like it was such a vibe. Like I definitely, and I understand what you're saying with especially movies and VCRs, not to age myself, but I definitely remember a time like had a VCR player, had the like distinctly remember that vibe of like you plug in your fucking VCR and there was a specific loading screen, there would be like, you know, and I'm sure that still exists. I feel like we were also
the last though, like, because like I agree, but I feel like we were, maybe I'm wrong, I talk out of my ass like constantly, but like the idea that like I feel like people that are even, say, 5 years younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
I would be surprised if the majority of them had a VHS player. Like, that would surprise me. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, like...
Please do, because in a similar vein, floppy disks. Did you ever, at any point in your life, use a floppy disk?
No, and the reasoning I'll give, though, is because we were, like, poor growing up. So, like, we were gifted a computer in, like, 2009, 10? Like, no, it was definitely earlier than that because, like, my introduction to the internet was definitely, like, friends' computers and stuff, and, like, friends in middle school that had their own laptops. Talking about one friend specifically that, like, not only had her own laptop but had, like, a family computer, and, like, their siblings had computers. So it's like I could have my own little computer and, like, sit on her house, and, like, she would be on the computer at her house, and we would just, like, be on the computer together. So, like, that was before I had my own computer at home. So that's to say, but point being, at home, like, yeah, we didn't have a computer in the house until, like, anywhere, I would have to ask my mom, but, like, somewhere between, like, 2007 and 2009. So a little bit later in the spectrum in internet technology or computer technology.
And that's not shocking, and maybe this is just kind of a me existence thing, because
you have older siblings, though, too.
I do have older siblings, which is very true.
My sibling's only 2 years older than me, so I don't have a lot of...
Yeah, my older siblings are, like, 17, 18 years older than me.
Exactly.
And also, I went to elementary school in, like, a really, really old... really old... No, literally. And, like, the computers that we learned on were, like, Macs from, like, 1995, 1996. Wild. And this was 2007... or 2006, 2007, 2008, or whatever, like that span of time, where I'm sure people in, like, better funded schools or whatever were learning on more recently
robust.
Yeah. But we were literally, like, I remember just talking about this is bringing it back to those memories where they were like, this is stuff that you're gonna have to know, and I'm like, even back then I was like, floppy disks, like, I'm sure, but, like, yeah, literally, if I needed to, I could.
That's amazing.
I could, like, take a floppy disk, put a file onto it, and, like, whatever, which is, like, that.
Did
honestly,
you also take typing classes?
Yes, well, yes. I did, actually. I did, because on those really old fucking Mac computers, and they were, like, the Apple 1980s, like, typing software.
That's wild.
And so it was just kind of like this alternate reality that we found ourselves in.
That's crazy.
So that's
I didn't know
so
they
funny.
rolled like that.
Yeah, man. Blodgett Elementary. Shout out Blodgett Elementary. Shout out Mrs. T.
Mrs. T?
Yeah, Mrs. Torkelson was her name. Yeah, one of the greatest teachers I've ever had, period. I just have to say.
Wow. Also, I mean, sorry, I'm really bad at segueing. I was just about to cut you off.
No,
and say something else.
we love a chunky segue.
I was, like, rereading my ins and outs, and we've already kind of gone over these next two things.
Sure.
Or two of these things on my list. One of my ins, kind of goes with what you were saying. My in is unplugging. It's just like get out there. Use social media and enjoy yourself, but don't get too wrapped up in the digital world. Is what I had, where it's like, I think it's a little bit more sustainable, and, like, if you are able to, I'm not the kind of person that can just be like, I'm gonna just do this, I'm gonna stop doing this, even though I use it every day. It is like, I feel like it's a little bit more sustainable to try and just, like, be more conscious with, like, how you use it. If you're like, oh, I could never stop using TikTok, it's like, okay, well then, like, be much more conscious and use a much more fine-toothed comb when you're consuming stuff off of TikTok. Then if you can't live without it, use it much more mindfully than you've been using it, and going for, like, any social media. If there's something that you feel like you can't live without in terms of technology or stimulation of any kind, like, just be mindful of how you consume it going forward.
Make America intentional again.
President Trump,
is what I'm gonna say there, because I think from what I'm gathering, there is a healthy balance to be had. And I think a lot of people just, like, me included, especially like before I deleted TikTok, I deleted
it? Yes. It's off the App Store.
No, I know. trust. I understand that deeply, and this is a conversation I've had with myself for the past
one of those Reddit posts I've been pointing at and laughing.
And I have been lurking on those Reddit forums being like, how do I download it again? Like, what did I do wrong? And they're like, when did you
delete it?
Literally the second I got the I was like, all right, this is my out. Like, I had this like I had this back and forth in my head because I was like, okay, I have an opportunity here. I could either see and wait what happens, but this is what I was saying earlier where I'm like, TikTok is fucking out.
And so I feel that we're gonna talk about TikTok, so I don't want to, like, we can pick this
right
back up.
Like, but in the sense that yes, when I opened the app, it was so funny. I was on my couch scrolling, and I was like, I know it's gonna happen soon. And I went to the bathroom and then went back out and like opened the app, and it was like, I got the message, and I was like, fuck, like of course in that like 2-minute span of time.
That's crazy. That
it just like went under. But then when I saw the message, it was like hopefully like President Trump, blah 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 blah, like and so that was my first like, oh, why are they distinctly calling him out by name when he's not even president yet? It just seemed like there was a different, like, that was an intentional choice of words that
absolutely
the CEO of TikTok chose to use.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm gonna say about like TikTok is out, or I'm like, oh, okay, it's definitely gonna turn into, and this is another out going into social media, like I just don't want to be associated with any like alt-right sort of vibe. Like, there is really no safe space on any of those like conventional classic social media platforms anymore. Literally. And TikTok is not immune from that, as we've seen. And I've already heard, like, anecdotally, I should say, but still, like, the algorithm's changing. Like, content is not being promoted. Like, the different types of content that were like fair game aren't being promoted in the same way. So it's just like, okay, like, maybe I don't want to spend my time. And that's what I was saying, where it's like, okay, that was the fork in the road that I had, where I saw that message. I was like, I'm just gonna delete it. Like, this is my opportunity, this is my out. Like, even if it never comes back again, like, I can live comfortably. But it is still like, two things can be true, where it's like, dang, that still does suck. Like, oh, I'm probably not gonna have it back on my phone, but it's not necessarily like a horrible thing.
Yes. No,
you know what I mean?
I feel that.
So
yeah. Like I said, I'm holding my tongue a little bit because there's a lot more I want to say on TikTok, and I feel like I'll be able to, because I'll tell you, yeah. I have a few more things to say, but please. I have two more ins. I have two more ins. So then the other 2.5, because the other thing I was going to say that I have on here that I forgot when I was talking about overconsumption and that being an out and stuff, is that I wrote down here, we need more trades. We need more people to be in trades. Trades are in. Like, go learn to be a plumber. Go learn to be a cobbler. Go learn to be a seamstress. Like,
not me thinking you were talking about, like, trade. Like he's trade. Like, DL trade. Like,
what are you talking about?
I'm going to need help from the audience. Let me ask the audience.
I don't like when I don't know stuff.
Like, trade, like, oh my god. Of course, I have to be the one to explain it.
Yeah,
don't explain
please.
It poorly. But it's basically like someone who you find, like, DL trade. I can't even believe I have to like say this.
You brought it up. So.
No, I know I did. So this is like, this has to happen. You say DL trade, or someone is DL trade or trade when like they're like I need to open up a Google definition, because I know what it is. Does that ever happen where you're like, I know what this is, I just don't know how to dictionary definition it?
Audience, does this ever happen to you?
Trade.
Not the typing in the background.
Let's see. Trade definition, Urban Dictionary. I'm curious to see how Urban Dictionary defines it. Okay, I mean, this is like a younger, hyper-masculine looking gay man, usually black or Latino, in urban contexts. Trade typically dresses in urban clothing. I mean, those are statements that I don't know if I would say. This is, again, I'm just reading what's written. Typically dressed in urban clothing, I don't like that word, and play to the I'm just gonna let you read it because I don't want to say that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think you should make your own socks and fix your own sink. 2025.
Period. Wait.
Figure it out.
I want to get that tattooed because like that's such a beautiful sentiment.
Okay. Thank you. I have two full, that was just my half. That was my
okay.
half in.
Okay.
I have two more full ins. One's pretty easy. This one, what's in is this specific pack of rice and beans on Amazon that taste exactly like the packet of rice and beans that I would eat as a kid, that don't get sold in stores, at least aren't at Winco or any stores I frequent.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like a dry packet of rice and beans in the like pasta box pasta aisle, and it's just rice and black beans with like seasonings in it. And
what's the brand like?
It's I wrote it down. Vigo brand, Vigo.
Vigo sponsorship.
So I would take.
Let's explore that.
I ordered a box of 12 of them. They came like that. I didn't order 12 individual packets. They offered me a box at a reasonable price.
Sure.
For 12 packets of rice and beans. So
support that 100,000%, because there's just something so fulfilling and warm and comforting, and
they're so good.
You know
Eating them
what I mean?
with like a quesadilla, putting them in a quesadilla. Chicken. They work the best. Like, to give you an idea of the flavor profile, they're like delicious if you make like a cheese chicken quesadilla and then you put some of those like in there. You like fry the bottom and then you like put it a little bit on top, like cooked. You like put them like you cook them and then you like put them cooked. Flip the quesadilla. Scrumdiddlyumptious. And so that's just my zany. That's just my quirky only.
Sure.
The last and final in that is like the most important in that I have is to utilize, and if you can, fund the library. Start using your local libraries. That's like this is another, like, most of these are things that I'm like telling myself. Like, these are things that I'm not the best at. I have a library card. I have used it a few times. There was like a book series I was super into. I finished the book series and I was like, all right, I haven't been back to the library since. I need to go. And especially because, so the library in the town that I live in is pretty small, but the library in the town, Salem, Oregon, is pretty good. Like, is a pretty sizable, is a pretty like good library that does like a lot of those programs, a lot of those like Lego nights, or like they'll bring in pets and you can like come hang out with like pets.
Sure.
So they just do amazing stuff, and you should go to your library more. And if you have the money, give them your money.
That is such a real in, because
that's the most important one.
Supporting the library is one of the most revolutionary acts that you can commit against a fascist government.
So
Period.
True.
And I'm not even exaggerating. Go learn.
The only thing that can help in a scenario where it feels hopeless is to like learn. Is
literally
to read. And that, I don't know, that sounds so fucking stupid, but like I feel like, and this is something that I've talked about a little bit with a few people, of just the idea of like, yeah, in this hopelessness feeling, reading up in history of like things have been really, really bad before.
Yeah.
And like people persist. Like, human beings are magical, insane creatures, and so like, but yeah. Anyway, segueing back into TikTok, I was gonna say, so I was biting my tongue when you were talking about your story of like what happened, because when it shut down for me, it was wild because it was like a day that I happened to have off. So I'd been like, yeah, in that like kind of doom scrolling pretty heavily in the like last day of TikTok, like this is it.
Sure.
I'd been off and on TikTok all day, and sitting next to my boyfriend, and he's like watching his like little live stream and on his computer. Then he like picks up his phone. I'm like actively on TikTok. He like picks up his phone and he's like, oh, I can't open it. I can't open TikTok. Oh. Like, he like showed me the message as I'm like watching TikToks. And it was like harrowing. Like that, like just knowing that if I closed the app, that I wouldn't be able to open it. So it was like, then like, and this sounds so stupid. I know this sounds so stupid, but I was like, what is the last TikTok video I'm gonna see? Like, and so I will report that I specifically made it Kimya Dawson, just one of those like very typical last day on TikTok videos of just being like, everything's gonna be okay, and thank you so much for everything you've done for me. Just like one of those, like, I'm like, okay, I think this could be it. Like, I closed the app, but I will say I kind of got a little ahead of myself in that story of like, as I'm scrolling, I'm like, oh gosh. But it then, like, started to, like, shut down. Like, I couldn't like anything. Like, as I'm, like, scrolling, I couldn't like. No. If I, like, opened the comments, they just, like, wouldn't appear. It would, like, say, like, oh, 400 comments. I'd, like, open the comments, and it's like, no one commented. And I was like...
Oh.
And, like, not in the way of, like, when that happens and you go back and then, oh, it says 0, and that creator turned their comments off. I would, like, click out of it, and it still was like, oh, 460-something. But then I'd, like, open it again, and it's like, there's no comments.
Oh.
So it's just like shutting down as I was like using it, and then so that's why I like got to a video where I was like, okay, this is wholesome enough. This, I'm just gonna close it because I don't want the last one I see to be some dog shit. So, and I am definitely with you where I've definitely opened it and see I have it. So like I also see those reports of people being like, it's so different, it's not the same. And the truth that I will say to that, at least, so then I'm speaking from my secular experience. My For You page has been the same. Like, the stuff that I'm receiving, like, there may have been a chunk of, like, a few hours when I had opened the app up. I remember I got a weird, but for me it was, like, I got a weird, completely off-base, like, straight man-looking thirst trap that I'm like, okay, this is out of the ball game. This is out of the ballpark from, like, anything that... So that was weird, but it wasn't, like, I wasn't getting, like, Nazi stuff. I wasn't getting, like, Trump stuff or MAGA stuff. Which I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm saying it wasn't an all-encompassing every single user that happened to every single user, because that didn't. I used it where, like, that shit happened. I'd put it, it shut down, and I didn't delete it, but I did, like, stash it away in a folder where I wasn't gonna see it, where I'm like, oh, sorry. So yes, now I'm back on the rails of, I haven't used, I haven't just gotten back on TikTok. So maybe there's a difference of, like, if you get back on TikTok and are, like, actively using it and it's, like, feeding you a heavily used algorithm, whereas, like, yeah, it, like, shut down. I woke up the next morning and it's like, just kidding, and I, like, still didn't touch it for, like, a few days after that.
Sure.
And then, like, I did finally open it back up, and it was, like, also, it was actually pretty, like, good, like, radical, like, people being like, this isn't gonna stop, like, people, like, the For You page that I had built brick by brick, like, it was the For You page that I had built.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's just my experience with it. Like, it wasn't, it
I
was
love that.
a wild ride, but then, yeah, I haven't gotten anything. But that to say, I think there is valid conversation, and I have seen, like, in subreddits and stuff, screenshots. So, like, again, this is the internet. Anyone can do anything. But, like, screenshots of things that are, like, oh, that is a little interesting. Like, I'm surprised that is reported, or, like, that got taken down, or...
Right.
But at the same time, my only rebuttal to that is that TikTok's kind of always been like that. Like, TikTok's always kind of had weird moderation. That's why the term unaliving, even if you're talking about, like, somebody...
That's true.
I'm blanking on anybody in history that killed themselves. Where, like, even if you were talking about, like, a historical fact, you like couldn't say killed themselves together without it getting flagged. Where it's like, it's always had weird moderation. So, not making any arguments. I want to hear, like, I'm not trying to speak as fact here, but, like...
And this goes with all of our opinions that we speak in any episode.
Get a disclaimer at the beginning. That would be a good intro.
Yeah.
Like, having, like, a disclaimer. Because we're just talking shit.
We
and
are.
It's like... Please correct us on anything, like, please.
Correct us. We are always open to change.
We will make retractions in next episode. Like, we are learning, and we're just talking shit. Like,
we are operating as if the audience is sitting with us, and obviously that's not true. This is like, but this is an open dialogue, essentially.
Absolutely.
Like, I want it to function as an open dialogue. I want our audience to be able to correct us and just speak openly about certain things.
one of the social media, we should make a subreddit. I don't know what the...
Oh my God.
I don't know what the classifications are, but we should make a subreddit. That would actually be really fun.
I'm gonna look into that.
I mean, we need to set up all our accounts anyway, so like
right,
we should.
Right. Okay.
Anyway.
Love.
So
okay.
yes. Anyway, the notes that I have were from before that day. What day was that? So it's been a week since, because it shut down last Saturday,
It
right?
shut down like a day or two before the inauguration. So yeah, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. Because that's I remember it being like Trump is
Saturday
not even in
night.
office.
President Trump, if you see
when I
this,
say Trump,
please save us.
TR*MP. Like it's redacted. As if I'm saying it out loud, but it's redacted.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
What letter is redacted?
U. The vowel.
Trump.
Trump.
So valid.
That's just, that's how my brain visualizes the word coming out of my mouth.
That's
for
so
those
funny.
at home. And if we ever do captions, that word will always be redacted. I am not giving the algorithm. I mean, I'm sure algorithms are more sophisticated that you can pick up on our voice.
You know what? I guess you're right in the sense of if we caption it, it would have a less likely chance of being caught up in whatever algorithm.
And eventually I need a code word.
Yeah.
Because I like...
You're so right, though. I was like, at first, I was like, internet brain of like, oh, that's just like based off of like what an algorithm's going to pick up.
Well, yes.
But I guess if you're... Well, yes. Yeah, I guess that does...
Anyway, that's just same with Elon, same with Borg. I'm not saying
Zuckerberg is really good though. Do you think that would still get?
Yeah, I think, but in terms of monetization, I have to think like.
Are we gonna have to bleep these?
We might.
Oh no. Anyway, keep getting tangent off of. So I just wanted to say my warning for the things that I'm gonna say about TikTok. These notes that I have are from before this happened. They're still not like, I don't think they're irrelevant now, at least most of them. But I had these thoughts before that weekend happened, because the biggest and most dramatic thing that I'm going to put my flag in the sand about is that like I have such a hard time like rationalizing the fact that this is how not good this is. Like how not good what happened is.
Yeah.
Like on top of the fact, and so this is something that I'm going to tread very lightly because I didn't write down. This is something I read after the fact and didn't have a chance. I just forgot to put it in here. Of the wording of like the actual like law or whatever the Supreme Court like signed or didn't veto or whatever happened, the like document was like, yeah, so TikTok specifically has to go away, but also, by the way, this means that any non-American owned social media with over 1 million users can also fall under this umbrella if the president of the United States doesn't like what they're saying.
Yes.
Essentially. Other than, don't worry because anything that involves shopping, reviewing said products, or travel doesn't fall. Those aren't touched. If those are acting unlawfully, the president can't have his opinion about those. He can't shut those down. But if it's the social media with the purpose to spread information and it's not a company owned by an American,
right, the
president can be like, I don't like that. Not obviously that's watering it down. It's basically
sure.
like if the president suspects it's foreignly trying to get our information or act wrongly. I'm wording this very badly, but like gives them the power to just nuke a social media that's not American owned if under
which is just so, I mean, no fascist government in the past has had social media to like ban, you know what I mean? Like Nazi Germany didn't have Facebook to like
Exactly.
So this really is like unprecedented, but like this is what would happen
Exactly.
if a fascist government would ban social media.
So
that was how they would set it up.
The sole principle of like, I like TikTok, like that's the thing. We were talking about social media. I don't use social media very much anymore, like at all.
Yeah.
I'm on Reddit with my little niches. I'm on Blue Sky very sparingly. I'm trying to...
Shout out Blue Sky. Shout out Blue Sky.
Trying to use it more. Did you see that they added a video feature?
No, yes and no. I kind of heard it, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't checked it out either, but my interest is very much piqued on what that looks like or what algorithm is going on there, because Blue Sky, I love what you're doing, sweetie. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Blue Sky is incredible, and that's honestly a topic for I could talk for a long time about Blue Sky.
In another episode.
Yeah.
So all that to say is like I don't really use social media other than those two, and then TikTok. Like I was on TikTok pretty heavily as my just like doom scroll escapism. Like I definitely agree that like in this day and age you can't really escape the shit, because like TikTok is also a very informative app, and it's like, so you can't really escape it, but it was a good, like, you could use it as an escape tool pretty easily. You could be like, I just want to watch slime videos for a few hours, and it'll feed you slime videos. I want to watch, like, it's such a good place to watch those, like, familial reunion videos of, like, oh, I haven't seen each other in 2 years. I love those videos.
We would not have Hope Core if it weren't for TikTok. You know what I mean? Exactly.
So I used that app pretty heavily. And then all this stuff kind of started, and it's like, oh, that like, so I will bring it back to, this is not the first rodeo, because I also heavily used Vine. So like, I was using Vine daily, all the time. And then one day it's like, nah, it's not making us any money anymore. It's going to go away.
Right.
So me and my little teen brain is like, okay, obviously that was sucked and annoying, but it was like, there's not a huge argument other than like, okay, yeah, Twitter's greedy because they couldn't keep going something that didn't make them money, blah. But that's also kind of not the most logic based. So it's like there were arguments to it, but not not huge pillaring ones. Then cut to like, oh, the second video media app that I prefer is going away, but this time it's because the government's trying to strip me of my rights.
Yeah.
It's like that's a little bit harder to just be like, well, this sucks, but there's nothing I can do about it. Like, it's hard to be like, there's nothing I can do about a situation where it's like really bad, where like I don't want to, there's not a lot of recourse to be like, well.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people draw similar parallels between like TikTok going away and Vine going away, and the parallels stop in the sense that they're two video heavy apps that are very popular. I think that's literally it. I think the reasons that they're being banned, or one's being banned, one could not make money anymore.
No,
and
exactly.
that's they're two very different beasts.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So that to say is like the idea of like, I'm gonna find another doom scrolling app. I will find something that TikTok did. I will find another app that does what TikTok did for me.
Because it always happens.
But like, the fact that I have to do that for such a shitty reason. Like, I would rather write down my social security number and serve it to the president of China than like agree with the idea that like, oh, well, if it's an American company, then they can have my data and they can infringe me. It's like, no, it goes like, I would rather do that than be told to my face that like, oh yeah, just because they're Americans, we're okay with that.
And
like,
this is like a thought that I had, and again, maybe this is maybe I'm just breaching the topic now. We can get into it at a different time. But like the sole argument of TikTok being banned, from what I've seen, is China has our data for the express purpose of manipulating content to further like Chinese propaganda against the United States government. What's so bad about that? Like, sorry, I already hate my government.
No.
What are they going to tell me that I already know? oh, like the propaganda, I'm sure it's propaganda. You can call anything propaganda. Sometimes whatever they're going to show me, them being the Chinese government, hypothetically curating my For You page content against the United States government, give it to me, please. Like, I already know what they're going to show me. This is already something that I understand as a United States citizen. Like, please turn me against my government even more, because it's already happening.
And I made this point, I can't remember if I wrote it down, but like I had this idea and like this concept, this isn't like a new idea, but the concept that if you are somebody and you're living in America and you are patriotic and you love America, and I'm not even necessarily saying on the spectrum of like MAGA, of like
Sure.
if that you're like brain dead, but you just are patriotic and you like America, and you are scrolling on TikTok and you see videos I guess this just takes some understanding where it's like, yeah, Americans are kind of brain dead, so like working in that respect, but then you also have the idea of like people curate their algorithms. They give you that not interested button right there.
Literally.
So like in the concept that if someone's watching it and then they come up like a video that's like out of their realm of like what usually gets shown to them, and it's just like propaganda and it's like talking about how shitty America is, they're probably gonna hit not interested and go on with their lives.
Literally.
Because we're all experiencing the fact that the algorithm will do weird things. Like I'll get even before all this goes down, is like every once in a while a MAGA video would pop up, a video that has like the most dog shit take that obviously the kind of people that are commenting and agreeing are not my kind of people. Like those have happened, and then you hit not interested and then you go on, or if it's egregious enough you block that person and show the algorithm of like, don't show me anything like that. Like there's things that you do that you're like, that's not what I'm here to look at, so I'm going to not look at that. And so again, like I said, there is going to be a population of people that are brain dead and just like see one thing and they're like, this changes what I think about everything. But I don't think that's the vast majority of people. So using that as the argument of like the fact that there could be videos on there that don't paint America well, or that's the thing though, is that like I need to polish up on the definition, because if the definition of propaganda, is it stuff that's not true, or is it just like, could it be true stuff that's like in a certain light? Like that's still propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, I'm with you in the sense of like, if it's the truth, I don't agree with propaganda in the sense of like, if you are, I mean, yeah, I guess I'm like mincing words here because I think propaganda is a word and to use it, but like, I'm not against the idea of like, I want to see it even if it's not good. Like, if you're telling me facts and you're telling me things that are true, I want to see it, and I don't think you should be able to cut off people from seeing it. If it was rampant with the fact that there's just like lies, or if other people are doing what America does to other countries of like, oh, it's just shit there, and like, oh, they're just, they're terrible, like things that like aren't untrue, but if they're like, that's not something that you should be able to just be like, well, you're not allowed to say those things anymore as a country, as a government.
That's the scary. That's the underlining scariest, because it's like like we were saying, propaganda can be anything. Just, I only care about the truth and facts. Like, as corny as that sounds, like I really, if it's truthful, I want to know about it. And if that happens to be used as propaganda, then like maybe I'm susceptible to that kind of propaganda.
Absolutely.
Well, then so be it. Then maybe I'm not a fan of that aspect of my country then. You know what I mean?
And the other thing for me that is just like a nail in the coffin, the straw that broke the camel's back, any other metaphor, is that like this whole TikTok shit, I won't say has nothing, but it is so obvious that the reasoning, the driving power isn't the fear of China or keeping Americans safe, keeping Americans' information safe, keeping Americans' data safe.
Right.
Is not the priority. when you specifically add in that document that
Exactly.
like things were in any apps where you can buy stuff, any apps where you can go to travel to those places, and
Exactly.
any apps where you can make sure to review those products, those are free game. You can give all your information and we can't infringe on that. The Chinese government can have all of your payment information, can have all of your feelings about how all your feelings about their products.
Yeah.
You can travel there. All those are free game. But people that are talking about stuff and apps with the like purpose of sharing information, those aren't allowed.
Yeah.
That's a little suspicious to
Yeah.
have those 4 types of apps on the table and only one of them aren't allowed anymore.
Right.
In terms of like by decree of the government,
It
like
raises
by
some
the president.
questions
So,
naturally. And you said something earlier that I want to come back to because it's something that I think about a lot. People don't utilize the not interested button and the
Oh
block
my
button
gosh.
as much as they like. I often forget that it's there.
Oh really?
If there's something
I use that, I beat
and
the shit out of that
good,
thing.
as you should. That's exactly what it's there for, and that's what curates your algorithm on any social media platform. Or in theory, it should. I can't speak to the validity of all social media algorithms or whatever. But that's why it exists. Like, if you don't want to see a certain piece of content or whatever, that's what I don't like. People need to remember that they have agency, and that's what I think the United States government does not have faith in its general population.
That's what they're banking on, is that people
exactly.
forget that they're individual human beings.
How insulting. Like, do you think we're brain dead?
No,
I mean, we
literally.
are, but like, you have to have some faith in us.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, people need to like take some responsibility for their social media feeds because it's completely theirs. It's their social media feed, you know?
Yeah.
When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself. Because nobody's going to take responsibility for you.
Absolutely,
You know
Kyra.
what I mean?
I believe that.
So,
No.
Yeah.
I mean, those are kind of my thoughts of like it sucks. Biggest points. This whole thing is shady as hell and sucks, and no part of my brain trusts anything that the government says about anything.
right.
So that's square one.
Right.
Right.
And this goes back another like thing of just kind of like what we were talking about social media in general, is that like if you can't give up TikTok, be very conscious about how you consume and use TikTok going forward
Yeah.
for whatever time remains.
Sure.
Like if that's because like that's kind of the boat I'm in, where like yes, I'm going to move on and find another app, but like sure, I'll hop on and try and find a few doom scrolls, but I, as somebody that's been gotten a lot of use out of that not interested button and the block button, I will only be increasing the usage of those things of like, I'm not going to tolerate any whisper of a shit on
Yeah.
that place.
Yep.
And then full on, like, once I find a sustainable, like, media app, because, like, fuck YouTube Shorts. Bleep YouTube Shorts. I do not want to I will never use YouTube Shorts. And yeah, even that, like, that's a whole other conversation. YouTube is its own other beast of
Sure.
a social media.
Sure.
But yeah, so use it wisely if you are, and if you can, and you can just like live without it, just get off of it and find like, read a book, learn a trade, do something else.
So, this segment of today's episode, we're going to be talking about our dream podcast guests and or who we'd like to find ourselves on as guests on other podcasts. I guess in the same vein.
I only listen to one podcast. Okay. I only listen to one podcast.
I'm gonna start talking, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, go ahead and keep talking.
So my first dream, and I've been listening to their podcast a lot recently, but have been in this circle for a really long time. Drew and Enya, obviously, been following them since Vine. I remember watching their Vines literally 2013.
The OG short form content creators.
Literally. Like I don't
there's-
think you guys understand just how much of an impact they both have had on social media in general. And yeah, I just really appreciate their presence online. So it'd be really cool to have them just to talk and hang out, kiki and stuff. So that's number one. Shout out Drew and Enya. You're welcome anytime.
There's space.
There is obviously space. Second is Sarah Baska, another Oregon girly. We love Sarah Baska. I love Sarah Baska. Another Vine OG that no one seems to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but is she still active?
Yeah.
Oh.
She posts pretty infrequently these days. I think she's doing other things.
See, that's what I was gonna say. That's kind of what if she has ever popped up on my For You page, or if she has ever popped up, then I'll like look at her profile, and they seem pretty few and far between.
Yeah.
So like, she's still out there, but I don't know how like active she is. But
she I used to watch her YouTube a lot, and she would post relatively frequently like a few years ago, but now it's like very sporadically, at least from what I've seen. But she does still have a presence.
People that have like done it for that long, like that, I feel like is only the natural progression.
I've always wanted to meet her. I feel like we just immediately get along. That's just me saying that out loud right now. Like that's probably wishful thinking. But it would be cool to hang out and just like talk and see what her vibe is. Because again, she's fellow Oregonian. Like
she would get it. She would
get it. Number 3, this is kind of a 3/4, but Courtney Miller and Shane Top. I have been dying to meet you for years.
Well, I am confusion.
I am not confusion.
That was an
accident.
That was an accident.
Hello, Dubai.
I didn't know this worked.
I would kill to have them on, or just like be on an episode of like the Smosh cast or whatever. I think they're really cool. Courtney's another one of those Viners that like I remember her being on Vine, not as much as some of the other people that I remember distinctly, but like definitely still remember her content. And it's interesting because like I mentioned earlier, like was definitely remember Smosh like 2007 2008, took a pretty long break from their content. All throughout like the 2010s, and then only started watching them again probably in like 2022. So it's been really interesting seeing like, is it like popping? Yeah,
I thought I heard a little bit.
It's been really interesting seeing the evolution of just her and her content, and then seeing her and Shane together. I'm just like, this is so beautiful. I think they're really cool. I feel like we'd all get along really well. So yeah, that's number 3 and 4. And this goes without saying, this is an open letter to everybody that I'm talking about. Number 5, Caleb Huron.
Oh,
I would
really?
Kill. I've been dying to meet him ever since we saw him live.
That's so
last
funny.
year.
Was that last year?
Or I guess 2 years
I think
ago.
that's 23.
Yeah, August. Yeah, we saw him like summer of 23, I think.
That's crazy. On the ground floor.
Literally. Oh my god. Yeah, he's obviously super funny, super cool.
I like him. He has some takes that kind of make me go, oh, okay.
Takes that are open for dialogue and conversation?
No, takes that I just disagree with.
All right.
Like, I don't want to quote anything, but like quotes that I would be like, and I can't remember because there was one that I remember posting that I saw him post.
Sure.
That was like him, and then his podcast guest literally was like, oh, that's like, you really do that? And then like he still chose to like edit and upload the TikTok about that clip. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting. So stuff like that where like I think overall and like support him. I think he's doing really cool things, but there's like some takes that I'm just like,
we'll have a conversation.
What's going on inside that noggin of yours?
We'll talk. We'll have you on the pod. We'll crack open the brain. Yeah, exactly. If there's beef, seems like there is some beef.
A little bit.
So yeah, open invite. He's also coming to Portland again soon. If you wanted to go,
we should.
I would totally be down to see him. Anyway, number 6/7. Brooke and Connor from B&C make a podcast.
Oh, I love that.
I've been listening to them for a really long time now as well. I just think they're super cool, super funny. I've been really meaning to listen to them more. I haven't listened to their podcast in a second, but first episode I was immediately hooked. I remember following Lady Efron on TikTok like the first video that she ever posted, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, like,
oh, that's ground floor.
Hooked immediately. So yeah, Also, Noah Miller, aka White Boy on the Beat, would love another Oregonian. Would love to have you on the pod. I think
Oh
you're super
wait,
cool.
really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, from Portland. Yeah, please come. Would be really cool to see you, whatever. And then
That would be cool.
Upstairs Neighbors, Maya and Dom. Please come. That'd be cool. They're super cool. I'll introduce you to their content.
I would love that.
Yeah. And Grant and Ash, also known as a twink and a redhead. I pay for your Patreon, and we have interacted on Patreon, so there is precedent. There is precedent, and I would love to just like, yeah, we would have a great time, I think. So those are all my podcast guests, dream guests, and I'm sure there's going to be more, but that's one of those things that I'm like, I'm going to be saying that almost every episode just to like get it out into the universe. And similar with my manifestations, I only have like one or two. Biggest one being, it'd just be cool to keep the social media vibe going. Like I really want to see where this goes. It's been a goal of mine to, in some way, shape, or form, find my way. This is just so abstract and so far down the line, but like, who knows? Let's create a manifestation space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's healthy and helpful.
Would love to go on Smosh in some capacity. I think their content is so funny, and I feel like it'd be fun to just like hang out with them. So
that would be so cool. I will say that I have not watched any Smosh content since probably like 2015, so I have no idea what their vibe is right now, but I bet you/we would fit.
Yes, we would, because it's very like Dropout adjacent, not in the same.
I love that.
It's
yes.
very like, yeah, I'm sure if you like Dropout, you would like Smosh.
And I do like Dropout.
So
that's another good. That's okay. Big Mama, she just like had a farm, had a beautiful husband.
Okay.
I'm sure she just deleted her account because
Sure.
she is like, and just like one of those people.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Oh no.
But so like that to say, and I wanted to go to her account because I know she has a real name. It's just Big Mama 947 was her TikTok name.
Yeah.
But I know like she had her name. Like I know, and I want to like say her name, but I can't remember what it is.
Well, we're throwing this out into the ether.
Big Mama 947 from TikTok. There's a lot of Big Mamas out there, but no one like Big Mama 947.
Exactly.
She would be my first dream guest on the podcast.
Beautiful.
I'll get my TikTok ones out of the way because then it's also Dutch from TikTok.
Please,
literally
I would
the two people I was just telling you about,
Yeah.
Dutch and Kay Poyer from TikTok.
That was another one of mine that I
Like,
forgot to add, but yes.
those two people, like, eloquent, able to talk down and have just the most concise, eloquent thoughts. I would love to just talk with them. Similar Sarah Shower of like, she's a TikToker, but like she's been in the game. She's not a TikToker. She's just an internet personality.
We know
like,
her from Vine.
Yes.
She's a Viner to me, honestly.
I love her. And just, yeah, another one of those that like in these funky times, it is just like, yeah, somebody who's been around the block a time or two is just like so wise, just such a solid head on their shoulders.
Yeah.
The next one is a little more of a less, but Bob the Drag Queen.
Oh my
because
God.
I just love everything they have to say about anything and just their presence.
The fracking.
The fracking?
Like,
yeah.
I would kill to have Bob on.
Like everything. Their presence, I love. And so this one's kind of I just like do you know who Matt Mercer is?
Maybe if I like looked him up, I might, but the name does not ring a bell.
It is like the DM of D&D. Like he is like of any of like the Critical Role podcast. He's like the DM.
Sure.
So just one of those people that like you could learn a lot about D&D from them, but also just like could talk. You could like ask him, and he does a lot of voice acting. So I also really love that of like is in like Avatar, is in like some Naruto. I can't remember. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he voices somebody in Avatar. Maybe I'm wrong. I know he voices like people in Naruto. Matt Mercer. And then my final one is because I only listen to one podcast. I only have ever listened to one podcast. And that's the McElroy brothers and their 2 podcasts, because I think I was telling you this. I listened to beginning of last year, I started listening to their D&D like Let's Play podcast, which is just like really fun because it's like 3 brothers and their dad who 3 of the 4 of them had like never played before, had like never sat down to play D&D before. So it was just like really cool, kind of exploded. They're like still currently doing it. There's a lot of contention of the quality of what they're still doing, but I like it. And then I've just, once I finished their Let's Play stuff, I've just been listening to their like, just they have a talking shit podcast. So yeah, so that was my final of like all the McElroys. It's Justin, Travis, Griffin, and their dad Clint. I would love, and that's I only listen to that one podcast. They don't really do guests because it's called My Brother, and Me, and so that's kind of their like vibe.
Yeah, valid.
But if they would ever want me to come yap, I'd love to.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my dream guests.
I love that, and I genuinely think this is what I'm saying. I'm putting this energy out into the ether, into the universe. This space, this yard of ours, so to speak, is going to be a very powerful manifestation space. I'm calling it now. This is just episode 1, but the more we're consistent with it, the more our dreams will be coming true.
So valid.
And the more your dreams will be coming true as a result. And we want to take you along for the ride.
So true. I wanted to say my one manifestation, I want to make it a dropout.
Ooh,
just
I
like
see
something.
that. I see that for you 1,000%.
I would love to do that.
Truly.
So,
oh my God.
out.
Your dropout arc, my Smosh arc. And then vice versa.
We could have like a story in the media about how like we chose 2 different like production internet companies, and it's like, oh, is there like Trouble in Paradise? Like,
no, literally. But then we quell all the rumors by then, and like 2 years, 3 years later, coming up with our own media empire.
Oh my God.
Imagine.
And we what's the word? We like poach like the best ones from Dropout and Smosh.
Literally.
So
imagine the biopic that comes out after that. Like,
gorgeous.
I can't even begin to imagine. So,
well,
if there are no other questions, comments, or concerns, and also this is a very bunk setup. Like, we have one handheld mic that's supposed to be set up to a boom, but it's not. There's no like table for any of our equipment. My laptop is quite literally overheating. My legs are burning. And
but
you could also
raw.
it's raw. Very that.
So
you can definitely hear the laptop fan at some points. It will get better with time. There will be another microphone next episode, knock on wood. And yeah, just stay tuned for the evolution of our beautiful podcast, because we're gonna baby it, and it's gonna be
our little love child,
as well as yours, and you're gonna come along for the ride. We want this to be just as much of an experience for us as it is for you, and vice versa. So
and yeah, like we talked about earlier, of like this is gonna be our platform to just like talk whatever shit we want. But then yeah, hopefully in some, like, once we get our footing, this will be an avenue where we can talk our shit together. Like, literally, the idea of like a Twitch, like setting up a Twitch account too, so we could actually like live stream, which would be a little bit different than like the podcast we're doing. But like, yeah, some interactivity in this. The fact that we're basically just sitting here talking about random stuff that we want to talk about each week.
Yeah,
or
we are
whatever.
Effectively serving, like, we're mouthpieces for our own thoughts and opinions, but we also want to be mouthpieces for yours as well, which is why we want to hear from you at any time. Yeah.
Precisely. So yeah, we don't really have a good way to
Kiss my fat ass.
It was so great speaking with all of you. And we will see you
whenever we can figure out a good timeline
Exactly.
to put videos out.
Yeah. I'm not sure, weekly, bi-weekly.
We both have, this is also something we're doing like for fun. Like we're not trying to be podcasters now. We are doing our own, we have our own lives set up, and we're gonna try and do a podcast.
Shockingly, we're adults with lives that we live outside of this.
I mean, we live in Oregon, so it's like
there really isn't anything else to do other than like go to school or go to work and then do this. So we do have some time to dedicate to this.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, it is a trial and error, kind of figure it out as we go.
It'll be a little raw. It'll be a little, fresh.
But that's the charm.
And then you'll watch it polish into a shiny gem of a program.
That part.
So,
heavy on that part.
And I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to take you all with us.
Me too.
So.
Alrighty.
All right. Well.
We love you.
When I'm sure when we edit this, we'll put some stuff here at the end.
Sure, there will be some level of outro or like
class.